Hello and welcome. My name is Israel Lopez, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Fishbowl 2017. It's been a while since I made a video. This last year, I think it's almost been about a year since I made a video for the Fishbowl community. We've been really busy. We finally got an office for our company. We've hired some new employees. We've got an employee in Australia. We've got a couple employees in the office for support. So 2016 has been a very busy year for Israel Lopez Consulting. And it's been a very busy year for Fishbowl. We haven't covered a lot of the videos or updates regarding Fishbowl, and we really feel bad about that. But hopefully, we can start 2017 with a new fresh start by starting and talking about 2017 because there's a lot of big changes that are happening in 2017. So we're going to be talking about the big change that Fishbowl is going through and what that change actually entails inside of the project itself, and finally what broke and what we can do about it. Unfortunately, when things improve, things unfortunately sometimes can break. So we're going to talk about what we can do to mitigate that. So the big change. Fishbowl is switching its database engine from Firebird SQL to something called MySQL. MySQL is a very popular database. Even if you go to, I think there's like a database stats website. It's on my blog. I'll have a link to that in the video. It says that MySQL is a number two database. Number one being I believe either Microsoft SQL or Oracle in terms of installation and activity and job postings and questions being asked, that kind of stuff. So it's a very popular database. It's very common for websites to use that. You're probably already using a MySQL backed website. Magento uses it. A lot of the big websites, like I think Facebook is using it at some point. In certain places, a lot of startups use it. So it's a pretty well known and well understood database. And Fishbowl's using it to really kind of elevate the product into a bigger size. There was a lot of confusion or questions about why are they using Firebird SQL, and we've had other discussions about that online about why they did that. But I think it's finally time to mature as a product and use something a little more mainstream. And part of that, we get a lot more mature tools to work with it and more experts to help us with MySQL tuning and performance and that kind of thing. So we'll be seeing how when 2017 releases, how customers are going to take those opportunities and apply them to their Fishbowl. But to really understand the change, we need to talk about the architecture regarding Fishbowl. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, just a few minutes. In 2016, what I have here is three main sections. The orange blocks are all Fishbowl code or Fishbowl modified code. And we've got the database engine somewhere in the middle and our disk solid state hard drives down at the bottom where we store our files. So when requests come in through the client, they talk to the server. The server executes business logic. The business logic talks to the system called Hibernate, which manages the concept of what a sales order is, and then communicates that to the database, which in this case is Firebird SQL, which then its job is to predictably save data into the files on disk, and everyone's happy. It goes up and down. Data goes in, data goes back out. Not a big deal. So when Fishbowl switches over to MySQL, all they're doing is really switching over the database engine over to MySQL. Same Hibernate software, same business logic, same client server. None of that has really been changed. From this perspective of database changes, but it has changed from business logic in terms of adding new features, things like that. So some of the stuff that we're going to see changing is an effect of MySQL. Some of the stuff that we're seeing changed is just Fishbowl improving things on their own, and that wouldn't have applied to Fishbowl or to MySQL or Firebird anyway. But Fishbowl as a product isn't a standalone solution. There's a plethora of other things that work with it. So we also have things to consider like ODBC connections. How do we deal with that now? Our custom integrations, websites, things like that. Um, Basically, those will need to change as well. And I know in 2016, and this is something I haven't talked about, there's been a couple of, actually one notable Fishbowl partner that's been booted out of the marketplace. I haven't talked about it publicly ever before, but that was pretty sad to see them go. But I understood why, and if you want to talk to me about it, just ping me offline and we'll have a chat about it. But unfortunately, as things change, this is business. Not every business stays around forever. So integrations that are currently working on 2016 will not work on 2017 because they need to connect to MySQL instead of Firebird. So there's not a whole lot of changes that you would need to make that work, but it's not it's not possible if you don't even have the ability to change the software. If you don't have rights to the the source code, for example, or even the company is even around to help you. In terms of ODBC, some customers definitely have like FedEx and UPS integrations that talk to Fishbowl's database through something called ODBC, and that ODBC setup and configuration will also need to be reset up for MySQL. Kind of this, is it Fishbowl's job to do that? Not really, because that's more infrastructure, that kind of stuff. My company can help with some of that. We're trying to ease the transition for a lot of customers to make that a bit work, but we're limited as well. Additionally, some customers have taken into using the Excel refreshable queries strategy with ODBC and Fishbowl so they can get raw data out of that system. That's not going to be too complex or too difficult to run. It'll mostly just be maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get that working. But the big issue that's going to happen is we'll talk about at the end with what broke and what you can do about that. So let's take a pause. Let's go back to a little more positives, and let's talk about what has really changed from a product perspective, not just under the hood. So we're going to be talking about new features, some fixes that I thought were interesting from the release notes, and then changes at the database level of Fishbowl, a little more technical stuff, and then the API. So new features, obviously MySQL, that's a big one. We talked about that. They're adding some functionality for carton-based shipping markup. So you could say, anytime we get a shipping cost from UPS, Indicia, FedEx, add 10% of that and then charge that to the customer. That's really cool. That's really new. I think some customers are going to be able to use that. Other customers won't be able to, only because they have conditional rules on that. But this is the first feature that allows us to do that. And not to preach, but remember that depending on your jurisdiction, that could be taxable, not taxable. Figure that out. I'm not again get into that. Additionally, Excel and XLS imports are now available. So previously, you would export. Let's say you wanted to import ISBNs, right? You sell books. Previously, you would have to export your Excel PPVP template or your part and product template into a CSV, and then from CSV into Fishbowl. And depending on how Excel felt like today, you'd either corrupt your records or something would change, and you have these scientific notation as a part number or a UPC, and that sucked. So I'm glad to see that they added that. That'll help a lot of customers be able to add data more cleanly because the format will be preserved. So that's cool. We're seeing some improved QuickBooks imports. In the last version of Fishbowl, I believe 2016-13 or 2016-12, they added some functionality to be able to quickly get a new Fishbowl database going using the existing data that's in QuickBooks. So previously you wouldn't have sales orders that are pending to ship pulled over. You wouldn't have purchase orders that are pending to be received pulled over. Those would be a homework assignment for customers to go do that manually. Now they're adding that functionality in. They added it, like I said, I believe in one of the last releases, but they're improving it now so that you could import it a little more cleanly, because QuickBooks allows things that Fishbowl wouldn't necessarily allow, like blank lines or items with no price, things like that, just description lines, so you can just draw up a line however you want it. And sometimes Fishbowl just didn't know what they were looking for, how to convert it until they came across it. But remember, Fishbowl still isn't like a two-way sync between QuickBooks and transactions. You still need to do your transactions and start them in Fishbowl, not have a two-way system with QuickBooks. And that'll be another discussion, because we've actually had that discussion with a couple customers and had to explain to them how that really works. Next, which I thought was cool, max characters on fields. So if you hover over, let's say, a customer name, you'd get a max character name of 31 characters, custom field value 30 characters, that kind of stuff. That's really cool. At least you can see what really the maxes are, so you can kind of plan around. And one of the really neat things that I saw is something called part kits. Now, I brought this up, I don't know when, but years ago. I don't know if this is if other people had this idea, and Fishbowl finally decided to do this, or they had a sale that they had to, in order to get the sale, they had to do this. But there's always a situation where, oh, I know exactly who to talk to. We have a customer who sells chairs, right? And technically, when you buy a chair, you don't buy the chair; you buy the components of the chair, like the pedestal, the hydraulic actuating component, and the chair bottom, the chair back, the chair arms, that kind of stuff. And you do buy that, but they're sent to you with different item numbers. And a common thing for some companies is to break that apart into the individual items so that they can actually then mix and match depending on what they need. So that doesn't happen just in chairs, but it happens in a lot of different markets. So it's very cool to be able to use part kits on both transfer orders and purchase orders. So I'll be excited to kind of show that off to my customers and see how we can use that in existing workflows, because that's something that we really needed for a long time. Last thing that I want to bring up, and there's more, you should definitely take a look at Fishbowl's release notes, is that we can now take payments in the payment viewer. Before, you had to go to the sales order. It had to be, I believe, open, but I'm pretty sure you were still always able to apply payment to a closed sales order. Now you can do it from the payment viewer, which is just another way to do it, and I think that's great. But like I said, definitely take a look at the release notes. There's more features there. These are the top ones that I wanted to talk about. Okay, let's talk about fixes. So on top of adding new features, they fixed a pretty critical bug, and I'm not sure if they're going to talk about it in great detail. But this is something that I've been tracking for a bit of a while. It's always been a really weird bug to track down, and it's come across with different names. And here's the two that I know: the quintillion bug. That's not really a word, I don't think. And then and what the technical term internally at Fishbowl has been price cost discrepancy, or PCD. Basically, you might have seen this. You put on the sales order that you want to sell something at $7 a unit, and somewhere or another, that number gets converted to 7 trillion. That's, sometimes the number is order of magnitude higher, or it could be just a decimal place off, or it could be just like half or quarter. It was always very weird. We never tracked down exactly what the full cause could be, and we noticed that this happens more with high volume customers, high activity, maybe even customers with slower hardware. And my only suggestion was to make sure your processing on the server has enough processing time to get things done. But they finally, in the process of them switching over from MySQL to Firebird, they discovered this bug, and they spent a lot of resources to fix it and finally squash it forever. So hopefully you can mark my words, because I really don't want to see this again, that they finally fix the price cost discrepancy. That's a big one. So congrats to Fishbowl. Finally, pick search by number field. We had some issues with that. I only bring that up because I had a customer with that issue. We would search by the number, and it would get a bit weird. Typically, when you've got the same number overlapping with another type of document, like a PO or a sales order, that kind of thing. We've had issues where we would export from QuickBooks to the QuickBooks desktop, and it would give us an error saying it won't accept a line with zero quantity. That was pretty common with the way that some things would transact over with basically a $0 line. That's been fixed. We've had some issues where we just have to, mark that transaction as posted and manually do it inside of QuickBooks. We've had some instances where dropship receiving the type of the item would cause the cost of goods amount would be slightly off. We're currently tracking that. We're going to see how that fixes it in 2017-1. We're hopeful for that. And then one of the new ones, in most recent releases, they've added line item custom fields to sales order lines, which are amazing, by the way. You should definitely take a look at those. But when you would duplicate that SO with that line item data, it would get cleared out, which is a bummer because we put it there. When we make a copy of it, we still want it. We've seen customers kind of give a little more nuance to how they're selling an item, not just from what their product is and the unit price and that kind of stuff in quantity, but how to maybe package it or how to put embroidery name on it, that kind of stuff. We've been using that line item custom fields for that kind of workflow. So we're excited for that. Let's talk about some database changes now. Hopefully, I haven't lost a lot of you, but um, when Fishbowl is using MySQL, they're going to be using port 3305, not the MySQL standard of 3306. A lot of this comes down to making sure that when we deploy Fishbowl 2017.1, some customers, and I know of at least 3, who already have MySQL installed for other purposes, not for Fishbowl. So we don't want to accidentally deal with that installation necessarily, because you know how that's configured and or how that works. So Fishbowl's going to install their own on port 3305. MySQL respects column name case. That only matters for mostly reports and maybe integrations, depending on how they work. Um, so be careful with that, be cognizant with that. We'll have another set of videos related to iReport developers to kind of catch that. We saw that as we were doing our own testing. Because these are different database systems, they're definitely going to have different SQL, different syntax. So to accomplish the same thing, we'll have to do slight alterations to the queries. That might mean your views, that might mean your reports, that might mean your integrations, that sort of stuff. So that's where I think a lot of this small changes are going to occur. MySQL does not support recursive queries. Does not support. I should have put that in the video, but does not support recursive queries. That means in order to traverse a bill of material from the first layer to the second layer to the third layer, we have to rely on software to do that. It looks like the bill of material report in Fishbowl has that internally, so the stock report will have it. Anybody with customer reports will need to switch over to that and probably have to redevelop that report. We're seeing that as well. And there were 6 column name changes, very slight stuff that I wouldn't use. Maybe on the point of sale transaction, we would have a change given field be more detailed. So instead of change, the change given. There's 6 other instances of that. Definitely take a look at the release notes for that. But the really cool part that I don't think Fishbowl is really talking about just yet, or they're not going to announce because they're just trying to get it into the product, is audit tables. Now, on our blog, we do have the list of tables that are going to be audited by Fishbowl, meaning changes that occur to those tables will get written out to this table, indicating what the old value is and what the current value will be on the existing table. So if you change the description from a blue sweatshirt to red sweatshirt, the blue sweatshirt will get saved, and then the current value will be the red sweatshirt in the part table. They're all, if you start taking a look at the tables in Fishbowl, they're all suffixed with underscore AUD, and we'll probably have another video on that specifically on how we can use that to our benefits. Additionally, they don't track the exact user that made the change. If, for example, sales order line item gets changed from unit price to another unit price, you're relying on the changes to the sales order to get the name of the user that made the changes. So it's not the ideal. I wish they added another column for Fishbowl user ID, but hey, this is a good start. Maybe they'll add it on a little later. And that's it for database changes. Okay, let's talk about what broke. So what's going to break? In my opinion, reports are maybe broken. If they're simple reports or they're stock reports, they're probably okay, especially if they're on 2016-13, 2016-14. Like I said, they're probably okay. If they're way more complex, you spend a lot of money on them, probably they're not going to work. Mainly because if they've got some kind of funky queries or funky logic that maybe only Fishbowl can do or Firebird SQL can do. So we'll either have to find a way to convert that to a MySQL query, and depending on how your relationship is with your report developer, or if you got it from Fishbowl, there's probably going to be some costs involved. Fishbowl plugins, I don't expect that any of them will be broken, including ours that we develop for customers. They are all within the Fishbowl logic and framework, so they don't know that MySQL has changed. But just follow along with Fishbowl's guidance on those updates, and for our customers, we'll be contacting you if there's any changes that we need to schedule. External integrations, those are definitely broken. I haven't worked with an integration either from a partner or my own where we haven't connected to MySQL directly for querying data. So expect that to be broken. There might be one or two that won't break, but that's typically not the case. So definitely go work with your integration partners to make sure that those are going to be working. Get on their schedule because there's going to be a lot of people that need to plan this out. Um, so definitely wait for that, or at least start discussing on internally when you want to upgrade to 2017. Finally, ODBC and views. They're going to be broken, but not badly. They will require reset up depending if it's a view for UPS or FedEx, or if it's an ODBC connection for sales data or purchasing data. Those will need to get reset up. Again, you're going to want to work with somebody to make sure all this is taken care of. But beyond that, that's pretty much it. I'm really happy for the 2017 release. I'm recording this on a Wednesday, February 8th, and they're going to be releasing it February 9th. That's tomorrow. And I'm actually flying to Fishbowl to talk to them about the upgrades, just do a meet and greet. But I really want to make sure that everyone is on the same page about the upgrade and that we're all moving forward to make this product a bit better than it has been. So all good around, but no one, uh, save for a couple customers that need the upgrade right now, I'm not necessarily pushing customers to update immediately. This is definitely going to be a slow change. Update when you need to. 2016-13 has been stable. 2016-14 has been stable. So definitely don't upgrade until you absolutely need to. And if you do, definitely get on your integration partners to get on their schedule because we're not. Especially for us, Fishbowl has a lot more people, but for us as partners, we don't have infinite resources to get everyone going at the same time. But that's it. Thanks. Have a good day, and I'll be talking to you soon. Take care.